Garett, you mentioned Cody and Frankie, Kazarian. Is there any interest of you joining AEW or doing something with them? They're Jacksonville-based.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's always an interest. I think it's really exciting with those people and the Young Bucks. They're all a part of it together, and they have collaboratively between all of them, their mindset there is just amazing. I mean, I really enjoyed Frankie Kazarian was another one that I really enjoyed working with when I was at TNA, and Christopher Daniels, same thing. They're just so smart. Their passion for wrestling is second to none, and they're all about kind of the same thing. They're all about preserving wrestling and really kind of bringing it back to what it used to be. And they're doing a great job of it. And some of the stuff that those guys are doing, you've seen the numbers. They're killing it. They're selling out. So it's exciting. And I had pretty much decided that I was not going to be doing wrestling for a full-time job anymore. I have a good career, and I'm happy with what I'm doing. But that's not to say that I would obviously entertain the idea of going back, and depending on what it looks like. But I never say never. So,
Garett, what are you doing now?
So currently, I work for a company called Contractors Inc. We're in the construction business. It's a very large company spread out through the United States. We have offices in Texas, and a couple here in Florida, being Tampa, Miami, and Jacksonville, Georgia, Memphis. And we do multifamily living. So we do anything that has to do with condos, townhomes, things like that, apartment complexes, so all in the commercial contracting.
Yeah, that's a really good business in Florida.
It is. It very much is.
You can make good money and not get beat up all the time.
Right, exactly. So I really enjoy it. Before that, I was with another company, which is what I was doing for the last couple of years, up until about 7-8 months ago. I was with a company, a college that specialized in firearms technology, and that had been, I was with them for quite some time, and that one ran its course, and it was time for us to part ways. So I took a few months off and kind of hung out, and then just got involved with the Contractors Inc. company, and really thoroughly enjoying what I'm doing with these guys.
All right, Garett, we're going to wrap this up, and I do want to touch base a little bit, because obviously it's interesting that your dad, Garett Bischoff, and the Monday Night Wars, and he means so much to the history of wrestling and what he's been able to do. That time when you started to get in the business, did Dad give you any advice? How important was it for you also just to try to make a name for yourself and not be Garett Bischoff's kid wrestling?
Well, two different questions. To answer the second question first, there is no way. I am Garett Bischoff's kid, and this is professional wrestling, so there is no getting away from that, which is fun. There's nothing, I wouldn't want to get away from it even if I could. But to go back to the first question, back in the Monday Night Wars, I was too young I wasn't involved in wrestling back then. Not as a wrestler anyways. I was when it was coming to an end, I was just getting ready to graduate high school. You know what I'm saying? So I was really too young to have a professional opinion about it. I knew what I thought I knew then after I was growing up around it, but I didn't know the ins and outs of what was going on. I didn't know what was happening. I wish I would have had the chance, because wrestling was so much different back then. I think I really wish I could have. I wish I'd been older. I wish I would have had the opportunity to wrestle in that era, because it just the pure energy levels, back then was something that had never happened and has not happened since, and I don't know if it ever will again. That kind of magic that took place every Monday night between both shows, it was just exactly what it was. It was magic, and that magic is gone for the most part these days. And I don't know if it'll ever come back not like that, anyways.
Well, Garett, were you the cool kid because Dad was on TV and doing all this great stuff, and you're at school, and I guess you were into karate? Am I right there? You were doing that. Were you sort of like the cool kid?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like to think so. Anyway, so, I had.
Well, did like your friends? Did all your friends want to go to the show and like, hey, yeah, want to see your dad and stuff like that?
Yeah, but of course, all of a sudden when anytime showtime came around, all of a sudden you had a lot more friends than you thought you had. You know what I mean? It's like, now we're friends. I see. So you get a lot of that, but it's it's your kids, and that's what happens. You had I was always had a lot of friends growing up. It's mostly just because I'm an outgoing guy. I always have been. My mom will tell you, ever since I was old enough to walk and talk, I'd be off walking and talking to strangers in the neighborhood, whatever. Back then, you could still do that without worrying about things. But you also, that drew the opposite, too. That drew out the bullies, the kids that were, they wanted to bust your balls or give you a hard time or pick on you constantly just because they perceived you as the spoiled rich kid or whatever, and that was not the case at all. So you get the best of both worlds, but you just deal with it. It's just like life, It doesn't matter what you are. It's the same way today, It doesn't matter who you are, what you do, what job you have. You're going to have people that act like that, or people that act like, like humans. So there's no getting away from bullies. There's no getting away from guys and women that are just want to be jerks because maybe they're just jerks or because they're insecure about themselves or jealous or whatever. So you just don't let it bother you. You just ignore them, laugh it off, and continue on about your day.
Yeah, that's interesting because I didn't really think about the negative part of it as far as that goes. And I'm sure then too, like you said, there were some jealousies and things like that. But you had to be also so many. You had friends, your real friends, and then you had other kids you knew and all that wanted to be around you or to go to the shows, which is just, I think, just really a cool time and a cool thing. And you were trained in karate. Tell me if I'm right on this. By Ernest The Cat Miller?
Yep, absolutely. I started out in martial arts when I was about 5 years old in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Prior Lake, Minnesota, actually. And when we moved to Georgia, I continued my training there, eventually meeting Mr. Miller, a Mr. Kustra, and a Mr. Franklin. They all worked out at one of Joe Corley schools. And I trained with all three of them. And Bobby Franklin and Gary Kustra, both, Mr. Franklin and Mr. Kustra, both are also very well-known martial artists as well. And I had the opportunity to work with all three of them. And I believe Mr. Franklin now trains all the Marietta, Georgia SWAT team department. So he trains all the SWAT cops now. So that's pretty cool. So he's still doing it. And then yes, Mr. Miller. That's who I worked out with mostly. Mr. Miller wasn't in wrestling when we met. His passion is teaching martial arts to kids. That's what his passion is. He loves teaching martial arts. He loves everything about martial arts. And he took me under his wing when I was pretty young, and we still talk to the same thing to this day. At least once a month, one of us gets with the other one a call just to say, hey, how you doing? And we when we can, if we're at the same, if I'm up in Georgia, we meet up and go have lunch, or if he's down here in Tampa, we'll meet up and go have lunch. Mr. Miller is one of the best people I've ever met in my entire life. He truly has a heart of gold, and someone is a man that I very, very, very much respect.
And I could see that by you referring to him, obviously, as your karate instructor, Mr. Miller. Did it surprise you at all, though, that he decided, hey, you know what, I'm going to give pro wrestling a shot?
And same thing, coming back to what I was saying earlier about being so young, I didn't really know what my dad was, plotting. I didn't know my dad was trying to get him into professional wrestling. But after hearing, growing up and hearing the stories and stuff like that, then, yeah, because he actually turned my dad down a couple times. The first couple times, he's like, no, I don't really want to do that. I don't really want to do that. And then my dad was persistent. My dad saw something in him, and finally talked him into it, and the rest is history there. But I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad he did. I think he enjoyed